for various reasons. So you are obviously in complete privacy, just it's only recording me for a little while. Can everybody understand my accent? Yeah? Please, if it's not clear and if I need to speak a little slower, please let me know. What I would like to do is someone to volunteer to introduce, but I thought it would be nice to add a bit of fun, and you can tell something about yourself and also just finish it off by saying, I could tell you a story about whatever you want to talk. Could be something from your life or it could be anything. So when you finish saying a few sentences about introducing yourself, just finish it off by saying, I could tell you a story about. Okay, so we can maybe have discussions, get to know you better through the day. But no story to begin with. Samantha, would you like to go first? So should you stand up? Do you think if we stood up and introduce it would be better? Because people can see, or just turning around or whatever?
Yes, yeah, maybe standing where everyone can see. That's the benefit of a circle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We'll make a circle in a bit.
Yes, Samantha and I live in Castlemaine, came there from South Africa about 4.5 years ago, so I can tell you a story about South Africa. And maybe should I pass on to someone else?
I think volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah. Who would like to go next? Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Doreen. I was born in Australia, and West Australia, the southwest, and it wasn't a violent country at the time, but I think I wasn't brought up with pure violence, but I think the language wasn't so good and the communication was pretty so-so as well, so maybe there'll be a story about that.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jenny.
Next.
I could tell you a story about my camel that I had named Chloe. She was probably the best communicator ever.
Great.
Hi, my name is Reese. I've been involved with the teacher centre for quite a number of years now. I was born in Australia, brought up in suburban Melbourne, and I now live halfway between Castlemaine and Darcy.
And what could you tell us a story about?
I can tell you lots of stories.
About?
I'm just trying to think of one. I can tell you a story about when I was living down in the Otways and I came across a kangaroo.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ken. I was born here in Victoria. It's a nice place to live. I can tell you a story about gardening.
Thank you, Ken. Who would like to go introduce themselves next? Yeah? Well, you can stand there and just, yeah.
My name's Deirdre. I live in Castlemaine. I moved from Queensland just over 2 years ago. And I have lots of stories of how difficult it really start. I could tell you a story about a funny incident when we had an audience with the Kamaka.
Yeah, thank you. Owen.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Owen. I live in Melbourne and I do get around a bit, different places, and lived on a farm at Apollo Bay where we were children. To the story about travel in India.
Awesome. Chris.
Hi, my name's Chris and I was born in Australia, and yeah, I could tell you a story about Newcastle.
Thank you. Yeah, Joan.
My name's Joan. I was born in Australia, born in Inglewood, and I was born in Newcastle.
Awesome. Thank you.
I could tell you a story about Newcastle.
Yeah.
Newcastle. lived in Newbridge for a little while, and then my parents shifted to a ship. And I can tell you a story about the farms. The farm, we live on a farm.
Thank you.
I'm Danielle. I live in Castlemaine. I'd like to live in Castlemaine. It's obviously where really I live in Golden Spring. I could also tell you lots of stories, but the story that's brought me here today is illness that comes from dealing with difficult people that I've taken on. So, my story today.
Thank you. Who hasn't gone yet? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm from Bendigo, so I'll tell you a story about Bendigo. But I'm here because I want to become a better communicator and get to know myself better about everything because I've become a better at it. And
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joy. I live in Bendigo. I came from country New South Wales, and I could tell you a story about living and working in the Western Australian desert.
Thank you. Who is left?
Hello, my name is Ken. I was actually born in Bendigo, but I moved away when I was very young. I just moved back to Bendigo. But I can tell you a story about shooting jets.
Very nice. Yeah. Sorry, whoever.
Sorry. My name's Aileen, and I'm born in Australia. I live in Charlton, and I'll tell you a story about caring for people. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Trish. I live in Castlemaine. I'm sure I'll be able to tell you a story, just can't think of one yet. I'm 76, so I'll have a story.
Wonderful. Well, I could tell you a story about stowing away in yachts. Thank you, everyone. So I know it's very hard with the masks to actually make a real connection. The whole purpose of NVC is to connect with people, you know, the premise. And we just have to mourn the fact that we have such a limitation in wearing masks and that we have to work with that for today. You know, like to acknowledge that. Even going to bed last night, I was like, okay, if tomorrow happens to be lockdown, I have to be ready, like it's the times that we live in. So it's all the more reason to connect with ourselves, support each other, and just, you know, do the best we can for each other as well as ourselves. Self-empathy, self-care is paramount in these times, aren't they? So I will just give you a very quick overview of NVCs. And again, this is very sort of like constricted in terms of what I really want to do, because it's, I came here for it to be very conversational and interactive because I'm a passionate learner. And I don't say that with humility, it is actually what I am, you know, like I'm not an expert. And it's born out of very much this workshop has come about with my desire to have a practice community. So please jump in, Samantha, if I'm saying fibs. And anybody else, I would like your interactions and opinions to make it more informal. So that's very core learning space in jargon language. So let's do it. So as a Buddhist now, I have to refer to, you know, what Buddhist philosophy says about this. And Lama Tsongkhapa, who the tradition that we belong to, the tradition of the Dalai Lama, there is a praise to the Buddha that Lama Tsongkhapa wrote. And in that he said, among all his enlightened activities, and goodness knows Buddha had a lot of enlightened activities, the activity of speech is supreme. So it kind of puts this whole, the importance of what we say in the context. You know. And the Buddha taught about Eightfold Noble Path, about particular kind of conduct, the concentration and the wisdom that enhances our way of being. And he particularly talked about the right speech. And the right speech is abstaining from lying, which is a no-brainer, and divisive speech, and abusive speech, and idle chatter. You can see that I'm a little bit dyslexic. And so when we look at this, it's like only option we have is to zip up. Because most of what I do is idle gossip or divisive speech or abusive speech to varying degrees. Yeah. So when I came across NVC, this is how NVC fits into the Buddhist context. So we all know that speech has quite a strong impact on us, and that is why we need to train ourselves, and it's worthwhile to train ourselves to speak, at the very least, not in a divisive way, not hurting, actually building connection and, showing care, looking after it, like bringing a closer connection with whoever we want to build connections with. And NVC can develop this skill in us. So what is the purpose of this today? It's not really a talk, but purpose of today is we're not really looking for people to do what we want them to do. So we can't come to NVC with an agenda of wanting the other person to fit in with, our agenda. In a way, when I really look at NVC, it's more like we are here to deal with the pain that gets caused in our conversation. Because mostly we come with our own pain or our own hurts, and then unfortunately it is we are self-centered, we are thinking about ourselves. So it's either the hurt we have caused others through our own speech, or the self-talk that we do to ourselves can be quite as vicious as the stuff that we do to other people. So we are looking at these things, unpacking these things, and learning a better way. So we are looking at a process that tells us, in a conflict, initially when I put this together, I thought, why do we need people to move? When in a conflict, usually when we have disagreements, we just are apart. It's very hard, and we are sort of like holding our hands and saying, no, I'm not shifting, they are the ones who did this to me. So what we are learning is, even if the other person is not doing any NVC, and they are, looking at their own needs and hurts, through learning this language and being able to understand that they are coming from a need, that we can then get them to move, because we are showing some openness and curiosity about their situation. So then naturally, even though we are not going, I know how to mediate, I know how to get this person to come to my point of view, just by opening your heart, opening our hearts to them and being honestly curious about their situation, then they unfold their arms and they say, hey, actually, I'd like to have a chat with you. I'm no longer feeling threatened by you. So it's that kind of coming together that we're talking about. So we have the general communication starting sort of a little bit far apart from each other. And then slowly NVC brings them together. So it's this nice closeness that we are aiming for. And NVC sets the bar very high, because it requires us to be, first thing is to be aware about what we say. And I find often what I say is a split-second reaction, especially when when we are being triggered or somebody is hurting us or whatever, the way that we perceive this, and I have already reacted. So this, then of course we have to have an attitude that we are open to working this together. That we acknowledge the other person's need. So it's not a perfect system, but it's a very good system. very good process. And I want to recognize that this system I guess we can call it a system, process, was developed by Marshall Rosenberg. He was a psychologist in the US, and he is from a Jewish background and grew up in very, in Chicago, where there was a lot of racism, and he was subject to racism and bullying. While growing up with that, he sort of wanted to understand why some people got pleasure out of hurting others. Why do people become bullies? And why some people are so naturally very kind and can't stand it. So what makes this kind of different ways of being, even in the same city, even if they're growing up in the same city or same situation? So through that investigation and becoming a psychologist, he then understood about people's needs, that our behaviors are driven because of our met needs or unmet needs. Do you agree? Yeah? So this is, obviously this became very popular, and it's used in a domestic situation as well as conflict situations like the Middle East conflict situation. So it's a very robust process. And he became a very well-known peacemaker. So why this happens is that we actually have our general sort of way of operating in the world is in a conflict, right and wrong. There's a right side victim and a perpetrator, the right and the wrong. And both parties sort of, and then we have also set up that whoever wins this process is rewarded, and the person who loses the conflict is punished. And you feel if you give in, you're weak, even in a sort of like a personal conflict. I remember my younger daughter's first boyfriend coming to my house, and we were having a conversation about my daughter Tara, and he said, but Shiro, you have the upper hand here. So this guy was like 17, 18 years old, and I never forgotten that. He was looking at my daughters and my relationship and saying that I had the upper hand, that I was in a good situation to whatever it is that I needed to do with Tara. So this is how we think, who's got the upper hand. So normally, we bring all of our hurts, and then I have demands, and I accuse the other person of doing the wrong thing, and I criticize them. So, and then of course we have really nice systems in the West, because we just invite someone to just commiserate with us, and you wouldn't believe what happened to him, can we catch up? And then we meet in a coffee shop, and then we just turn it into a misery cafe. We just sort of put fuel into, yes, we want to sort of like help our friends, so we put fuel into, yeah, gosh, they shouldn't have done that, and they're wrong, and you're right, and we just sort of, this is what we do as a society. There'll be no coffee trade without that. Yeah?
Where does this idea of right and wrong come from? Is it something inherited from like a worldwide view? Or?
Well, there is a moralistic view it comes from very different things, and in different cultures it's a very different thing as well. I think, Judeo-Christian cultures have brought in a certain moralistic right and wrong in a very, very strong way. And then we have adopted that. Even Buddhism did not have right and wrong. But we have, through colonization, I know in Sri Lanka we have become very Christian in our approach to Buddhism. So I don't know the history far back enough. I know that the indigenous cultures, various different cultures have very different ways of right and wrong, or like the correction of right and wrong, or idea of right and wrong. I mean, I heard this beautiful story about a tribe in Africa. When somebody has done something wrong, they bring the person to the circle and remind them of all the good they have done. Oh my goodness, can you imagine, instead of our justice system of dragging 16-year-olds to court, they have some completely, they remind them of their basic goodness. It's amazing. So, yeah.
I was going to say, even in Buddhism and where you were born,
Yeah.
in Sri Lanka, you have the Pali tradition, and then you have Tibetan Buddhism with the Mahayana tradition, and they compete with one another.
Well, there is no competition. Mahayana is not, can't get a foot in the door. in Sri Lanka, there's no competition at all. It's like, it's a very, they don't acknowledge Mahayana. In fact, we had a war in the 12th century, and Mahayana monks or whoever was there were chased out to sea. So when I went back wearing these robes, it was very difficult because I was their enemy. I was the enemy within. That I've been born, I'm a Sri Lankan, and then I rock up completely like, cop this, So it was very interesting times. Yeah.
I was reading just the other night, actually, by His Holiness, saying that we in Tibet practice this way, and they in Pali tradition practice this way.
Yeah, there's disagreement about, there's a competition between the two traditions, no doubt about it. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Comment about that. That's such a beautiful question, asking, where does this right and wrong come from? And I was just reflecting on that and the needs that are met when we say something's right, something's wrong. Is we feel more secure. There's certainty, so certain safety needs are being met, and whereas the nonviolent communication process requires a higher level of, I don't know if it's evolution or self-discovery. It's more dynamic. What needs are alive right now? So we judge things from the point of view of, is it meeting my needs rather than is it right or wrong? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really valid point because it just, wherever it came from, right and wrong is very much entrenched in our culture.
So really what you're saying, it's the easy option.
Yeah.
The default option,
Yeah.
It's right or wrong.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it.
And it's often a higher authority that is saying what's right and wrong. It's not from inside.
Yeah. And I think, when I have done workshops in Sri Lanka, I have had people that have never ever questioned, they didn't know the concept of asking yourself, how do I feel? In fact, when I went to a counseling session for the first time, when the counselor said, when all this was happening, when the war breaking out and you were doing this and domestic violence, how did you feel? And I was in utter shock, and I'm like, are you kidding me? There was no time to feel. There was no feel. I thought she was completely insane to even ask such a silly question. How could you feel? And then now I understand, my goodness, we just got into survival mode and just go. So, there's, I don't know if it is getting away from that right and wrong thing, but just coming to yourself and working with a level of authenticity, connecting to what your need is a foreign concept to a lot of us, So NVC then, as Samantha rightly pointed out, it demands us to just park our normal way of thinking, rights and wrongs, and just say, when we are looking at a particular situation, make an observation. What are the facts here? And then, of course, through then observation, then we connect to our own feelings. What is this observation bringing up in me? And then we learn to look at the need. What does the feelings are the doorway to our needs. So then it requires a certain amount of being connected with ourselves, and then we are open to hearing that need. And I mean, some of us are nobody's ever cared for our needs. You know, like when I was growing up, nobody gave a hoot about my needs. I didn't feel that they understood my needs. So we then, of course, suppress these needs, and you think this is the way the world is. Just get on with living. You know, it's like an indulgence to accept feelings and look at your needs. It's like, are you kidding me? There's a crisis here. You want empathy? I'll give you empathy. Whang! That kind of thing. So, whereas we are just going into a completely different way of being. I'm not saying everybody has had that experience, but you can have. And then we actually learn how to make a request, and the request may be to ourselves. Sometimes it's about self-empathy, you know, or to the other person. Often it is to someone else. So this is great. Thanks to Samantha, I have representations, because Marshall have this really nice symbolism for the way we sort of talk, basically. So the giraffe has a big heart. Apparently of all the animals, he has the biggest heart. Aww. And also he can digest thorns. So it's like got a bit of resilience, which we want to develop. And what else? He's got a long neck, so he can rise above all of this stuff. And whereas the jackal, he is the one that we are normally connected with. And you know, this is just symbolism, nothing against the jackal, but usually we demand, we howl, we criticize, we judge, or whatever is represented through a jackal. So we'll see them coming up quite a bit. And when you are talking about the jackal, is internally, if you're blaming yourself, it's called jackal language. You know, are you using jackal language? Have you got the jackal ears on? Kind of thing is used in NVC world quite a bit. Can you see the board? Yeah. Otherwise, you could shift here. And then, of course, the emphasis externally is to blame and shame others, whereas the giraffe is the opposite of that. You're more concerned, more connected with feelings and needs, more open to other people's. So this is the same thing. And this 4 Ds that comes up in NVC is diagnosing, denying, deserving, and demanding. So that's what we do when we make a request. Like normally when we talk, when we want to get what we want, this is the kind of process we follow. And then does it help to make connections, and do the other people fit in with our way of sort of what we want them to do? Sometimes they have no choice. If we make a demand, and if we are in an authoritative position, they do it, but it doesn't come from the heart, and they're waiting to move on from that relationship because it's not a comfortable, connected relationship. So the denying is the same thing, because you deny responsibility. I had no choice, and you made me do it, or will you do it, or whatever.
Excuse me, isn't there a danger here with labelling? It's like the anti-vaxxers and the pro-vaxxers, and those people are really feeling threatened.
Yeah.
And they're frightened and scared, and they're right in their own heart.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, well, no, we're not going to change because we are in the wrong. So there's no real negotiation. There's just more conflict.
Yeah. So that's a very common conflict that's occurring in the world right now. Yeah. So what is the danger of, what do you mean, what is the danger compared in this one?
Well, to me it's a one-way street for both parties, where they can come to a conclusion. You're wrong, we're right. That's it.
So the thing I find there is no dialogue. There is a lot of fear there, but this fear is not addressed. They haven't been called into, I don't know if they have, but at least it's not in any transparent way that their fears have not been addressed. Yeah, their need is for security, safety, that they're not being injected with something that they're going to be, like submissive after that, or their information is going to be collected, or there's going to be one world global economy, or whatever it is, one world order. Those fears have not been openly addressed. So they haven't had a time to dialogue. They're living in their own bubble in fear, and other parties saying the answer is this, but there has not been a dialogue as far as I know. Yeah. So that, that's the weakness in the thing. There is a danger of not the dialogue, and hence NVC. If somebody in authority invited them to share their concerns, and if there's a dialogue, at least some of them will understand. I was talking to a woman in Sri Lanka, a woman I know really well, and I asked her if she has been vaccinated, and she said, no, all the vaccinated people I know got a little sick. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is what happens. So that fear so I'm waiting. And that simple thing, she wants reassurance that, if somebody explained on TV or wherever the heck, that they have people, general population has access to, that you are, likely to feel a little unwell, problem solved. So it's a lot of communication, lack of it, yeah. So getting back to the giraffe, his way of being is observing, feeling, and requesting and connecting. So we are trying to move away from, not that we will never have a jackal thought. Of course we are going to be self-critical and critical of others, and there is room for a jackal. But if we start talking like the jackal language, demanding and judging and denying and whatever, then of course we're not going to build a connection. So we can have secret jackal moments within ourselves. Or we can take our jackal for a run. But we don't. We don't sort of jackal others. That's the other thing. Do you want to add something, Samantha, there about the jackal? Because it's not like we are not judging here, right? It's not like jackal is horrible. Again, then we fall into the same trap.
Jackal is a really important way to determine what our actual needs are. So if we're making a judgment about someone, and the stronger the judgment is about someone, the more of a flag it is that actually there's a very strong need in me that's not being met right now. So, for example, if you're judging, a building goes up next door and it's really ugly, and you're just stuck in this jackal thought of it being ugly, you're stuck. But if you use that to connect to your need for beauty or order, whatever, that takes you out of the stuckness and gives you a path forward, a constructive, a positive path. So jackals are really, really important, because as you said, that's the first thing that comes into the mind, is the judgment. If we can just look at the judgment, that can take us further.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between judgment and discernment, isn't there? A lot more wisdom attached to discernment. That's interesting, all the judgment.
That's absolutely right, because with judgment there's a condemnation, there's a sort of like a blame attached, there's a definiteness, where discernment is completely different, because without discernment it's hard to function in the world, right? Because we don't know what's the wise way to be, and we have to discern, I think, choose of different behaviors or different choices. So discernment to me is making a wiser choice, in a way. Judgment is, there is no discernment, this is like this, black and white,
Yeah, discernment to me doesn't meet my needs. That's another word for
yeah.
discernment, rather than judging is a blaming.
Yeah, it's a form of blaming, condemning. So NVC moves us from the jackal side to giraffe way of being, and it has two kind of frames of mind, and this is again bringing back to the Buddhist context, intention to connect. You know, we talk about all kinds of things in Buddhism, and intention is a very huge part of what determines whether some action is harmful or useful, or beneficial rather. So intention is very important in NVC as well. And you know, here that it doesn't mean that every person out there or every encounter we have, we are going to say, oh, I want to connect with this one and that one and that one. You know, this is again, we are in choice. We don't want to connect with everybody, and we don't have time to connect with everybody. We make choices. We are talking about with people who you want to make connections and have good relationship with, then this is really good thing to apply. And again, with people who you don't want to have a connection with, you use your discernment, and without blaming, shaming, whatever, without conflict, you can step back from those relationships. You know, this is a tool that suits sort of any decision you want to make in terms of relationships you want to develop or let go. And of course, the attention to present. Again, you know, this is bar is very high, because when we are thinking about something that somebody's done, or, you know, these things come, so we are stuck. If we are stuck in that old hurt, whenever that happened, NVC is asking us to say, what is actually bringing it up? Not the story, but when I think about it, what is coming up for me now? And we work with those feelings and look at the need behind that. So very liberating when we actually can do that process. And I'm not implying it's easy that I am doing it, but even trying that is, you know, knowing that it helps is liberating. So the three modes that we actually speak is speaking honestly. And again, you know, this is also fraught with it. Speaking honestly might mean that, you know, you tell the person that what we think of them honestly. Oh, no, you know, like we have to say that it's not going to be harmful to them. Speaking honestly, meaning that I can't deal with this right now. Do you mind, you know, or can't talk right now. Let's meet in 10 minutes. Would that be okay type of thing? Again, harming and hurting and connecting, like we have to understand that we are trying to connect. And listen empathetically. So listening empathetically, very hard thing. We'll do some of that practice, you know, with listening with empathy, and practice self-empathy, which I think is the key to being a good Buddhist practitioner for a start. Without self-compassion, you know, I like the word empathy because it's more tangible than compassion. Compassion is like a lofty, high ideal, but empathy is compassion in action, in a very tangible way. You know, good place to start.
Kindness is another nice way of saying it.
Yeah, kindness is another good way. So kindness and empathy. So it doesn't require the party to be, you know, they don't have to practice NVC for us to practice, but it is nice if, in terms of role playing and practicing and discussing, it's nice to have other people who are on the same page to work with. So these are some of the good things that comes out of it. And empathy is, you know, like this is the same thing. Do you agree that we have to have self-empathy as a key part of any growth? Yeah? Anybody has a different point of view? Can we have empathy for others without empathy for ourselves? What do you think?
No, I think
That has to be part of it equally, yeah. Yeah, so self-empathy is obviously not self-pity. We are not talking about that. Now we are getting to the formal process of NVC. So NVC comes with these assumptions. All actions are attempts to make needs, to have our needs met, and human needs are universal. And everyone's needs matter equally. That's a toughie, because when you're in conflict, your need is so burning and important. So you have to okay, it takes a bit of attitude shift. And feelings result from needs met or unmet. So they're good assumptions, and I'll give you this information if you need them. So how do we connect observation? As I said, is like something that without any embellishment, without your judgment, without your adding anything at all. And then feelings is...
So can those feelings be an angry feeling as well?
I'm sorry?
Can that be an angry feeling as well?
Observation?
Yeah.
So the observation, would you like let's say observation is, angry feeling cannot be an observation because that's an opinion. Yeah. So if you saying like your own anger, if you're saying, you would have to say, my hand flexed, my fist flexed, my body tightened, my face, I frowned. Went red. I couldn't move. My body became stiff. That's it.
That's the feeling.
That's the observation. If we were watching a video, what would we see? Yeah, so without any feelings and ideas about what's occurring there. So we just have to describe, my palm became sweaty. My palms had dampness. That kind of thing. Hard. And the feelings, how do we gauge our feelings? By connecting with our body mainly. When emotions rise and feelings come up, how do we actually compute them? How do we process them? How do we access them? Usually sort of seeing what is happening. So that's why connecting with our body is so important. That is a huge gauge. Otherwise, it's like the car's dashboard. It's like flashing lights all over. I'm stiff here, can't turn my neck, leg is crooked, or whatever is happening. We just march on doing our thing. My body is going dig, 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 but I still march on. And finally, exhaustion or anger or, whatever. So we just slow down and see what is actually happening. Self-connection. And then understanding the connection between feelings, and then learning how to identify the needs, then we make the request. So there are ways of doing this in language. So observation is when I remember what happened to me on that day. My body gets stiffened or whatever. And the feelings is, I feel upset. And there are a few traps with that. When we drill down, we can talk about that. And the needs are, my need for safety. And I make a request of myself, say, when I feel like this, could I just take 5 minutes to sit down and give some self-empathy? Whatever it might be. Once I understand my need, then I can act from that, make a request. So if we get all muddled up and if this incident is long-winded, then we have to go to the pith thing that stirs us up. What is in that big story that actually, at which point, when we are able to write it or think about it, what actually stimulates my feeling? What stirs me up? So that's the bit that we have to observe and connect with, and then the feelings will come up. At which point of the story do I get riled up or upset or whatever? So that's basically it. Yeah, so with the observation, I mean, I found this really hard, like to do the observation, because my judgments and evaluations come up and I want to embellish it a little bit. Yeah, we might be able to look at a couple of examples of what that might be. And, like a good way of, to describe the observation is like, I don't know if you watch Star Trek, like Dr. Spock. If you see some man driving down, screeching, stopping the car, abruptly jumping out of the car, falling down with a bottle of vodka in their hands, you think, oh my God, how do we describe it? That man is totally out of his, head, totally drunk, parked the car dangerously, got out of the car with a vodka bottle in his hand. But Dr. Spock might say, a red car, drove down at 120 kilometers, stopped suddenly. A man, 5'6", wearing a green cardigan and a red bell bottoms, got out of the car, opened the door, fell on the ground. He had a bottle with some liquid with the word vodka written on the bottle. So that kind of completely no emotion or judgment or anything. So I'd like to sort of have some examples, if you can think of what might be, well, in fact, I have a list here which I will read out, or you have a list. What am I doing? We have a list ourselves. At this point, we could probably pull out that list that you have some other. I haven't given you your lot. Do you have a? Yeah. Okay. So if we can have that list, I think there is a list of observations. Is there some little exercise? No? Oh, yeah, observations and not judgments. Yeah. So if you can look at that now and just look at if you can. Yeah, is there one? Maybe we'll take, 7 minutes. So we are going to tea at 10:30, right? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we're having a tea break at 10:30, so you got 10 minutes to work through that exercise. Have you all got pens? Is there anyone that needs a pen? Yeah. Has everyone got a sheet? Yeah. Sorry.
This is wonderful presentation so far. I just wanted to say how much I'm enjoying the way you put the diagrams and
Is that
it's
good?
really clear.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's reassuring.
Is there anything you need from me?
I'm sorry.
Anything you need from me during this little break?
So we could just have a chit chat. And also if people want to clarify things, they could talk to you. So right now, if you're getting stuck, I might ask Samantha to sort of go around and assist you, because she has been an NVC trainer. So if you have any questions, you can either ask myself or ask Samantha. it's interesting, I find that in NVC you can't make positive judgments. Yeah. You know, that is still a judgment, like it's, yeah. And it actually fits in very well with when they say when bringing up children or praising someone or blaming someone, just praise the deed or the whatever they do, action, not the person. So you're really learning to separate the action from the person, whether it's negative or positive. So I'll give you 2 more minutes and then we can just have a quick recap of this exercise to see where you are at with observations. Don't worry, if you're stuck, you can either ask Samantha, we can clarify. It's not an exam, even though it's set up a bit like that. You won't fail. Totally.
There's no attachments, there's nothing hanging off it.
No.
It's just the fact.
Just the bare facts. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it helps when you've been doing client notes over the years.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because you have to say exactly
Right.
anything to it.
You got a head start on this. Yeah.
That's right.
What's the first thing you said that you found it helpful because you've been doing like in the rest?
I was just saying that because I've worked with clients and you do clients, you do notes.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, and so you can't add any emotions or attachments.
Yeah.
It's just pure fact.
Yeah. All right.
And sometimes that's not simple, always, because you put human emotions in there.
So can I ask how you are with that exercise? Does anybody want to share anything? Like if you are stuck in or not clear about something or have anything to say? How are you finding it? Would you like to share what sorry, what's your name?
Joy.
Joy. Joy was just saying it's the bare facts without anything else hanging off it. And that's a good way to put it. Bare facts. Any thoughts on in any part of it?
To me, it's quite clear. It's logic. It's cut and dry. As the lady over there.
Okay, so facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's interesting you use the word logic. What's logic about that? Logic about the process. Okay.
Henry's addressing it's an evaluation.
Oh, okay. Let's go through it. So, what is the first one?
The first one is yesterday evening Nancy dipped her fingernails whilst watching television. It's
So-
an observation.
Observation. Does everyone agree or does anybody? Yeah.
Yeah. It's common sense. So no emotion.
Right. Yeah. It's a fact. Second?
Second one, Sam didn't ask for my opinion during the meetings. It's an observation.
Is that an observation and a bit of a...
No, it's an
Sorry?
evaluation. It's an
Evaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an evaluation because... What do you think, Samantha?
But if you didn't ask your opinion, you didn't ask your opinion.
Yeah.
Sam didn't ask the Lord, he was very good.
That's
That
an
there's a
observation.
judgment behind why Sam didn't ask your opinion. So at the same time that it is observing a truth about meeting, there's an implied judgment.
Yeah, there's an implied evaluation, yeah. Okay, let's just put in the either, yeah. To me, it's an evaluation, but we don't know the background. We don't know if everybody was supposed to give some feedback in the conversation or, but it could be either. What about the third one?
It's an evaluation.
Yeah, my father is a good man.
Anyway, someone else can go because I'm...
Janice works too much. What do you think about that? Evaluation, yeah. Henry is aggressive. Sorry?
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works
Right?
with that one because I think Janice works too hard. You're observing that.
Yeah, but that's your opinion, right? You think, like you have to say, Janice works 10 hours a day. Or Janice worked 10 hours a day in the last week. So then you would say it's 6-hour work days. Why is Janice working 10 hours? That's a bit, you would say that's excessive. But just to say she works too much is an evaluation. In your opinion, Janice works too much. What about Henry is aggressive? Sorry? Evaluation, yeah.
But I mean, it's like, do you call that aggressive or not? Say if Henry's punching somebody.
But we are trying.
Henry's punching somebody.
Yeah, we are trying. Yeah, it's an opinion. If Henry grew up in a household, the conflict resolution was punching each other, he is doing what's normal to him, Pam was, yeah. Pam was, it's a hard one, I must say. It's a very hard one. Pam was first in line every day of the week. Yeah. My son often doesn't brush his teeth. Sorry? Evaluation? Who says evaluation? So Jenny says evaluation. Yeah? Often is an evaluation. Yeah. We are looking for very precise things in these observations.
Can I say that I thought that was, I really struggled with that.
Yeah, no, it's we.
Passive aggressive. Yeah. And that's how I.
Sorry?
I thought it was a very passive aggressive statement, like very, just very subtle aggression in the by the word often.
Often, right,
And that's
right.
the only way that I sort of managed to.
Ah, right. That's a really good, generally we use that so often to generalize so often. Well, that's in the right context, but we say, oh, she often does that. They're always like that. Just really, reinforcement, yeah. Luke told me I didn't look good in yellow.
But that's his observation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a clear observation, I think. It's Luke told me and the words are there. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you put them in inverted commas,
Yeah, it becomes more,
just that much more
clearer, yeah.
Any quote of anything anyone says, if you quote it, that's an observation.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the luxury and it's tea time, so let's take a break. And, we can talk about over a cup of tea or coffee how we felt about the rest of it, the positive judgment part of it. Okay, let's go. All right. So it's all, you know, where to get So do we turn that off? No. How long we got? So it's 15. No, that's not too long. How are you? What I will ask you. What are you? Hanging in there.
She's 8. Take it.
Do you wipe and clean? And
I do, yeah. So
do you want me to start?
yeah, no. So if you start in the middle one and go from this
And
way
I work
to
back.
that,
don't I?
yeah, and then just empty it
Yeah.
and wipe it.
Yeah, I'm just
Wipe it
watching
wipe it 3 times this way. Oh no, 3 times that way.
Is that clockwise?
And then put them back upside down.
Back upside down. Okay.
So how's Newstead going?
Yeah, good. We've had the Loddon River there. It's very beautiful at the moment because it's
A lot of water.
so
Lot of water.
a lot of water. It's like waterfalls, little waterfalls.
I used to spend a lot of time out at Cancarran or
Oh yeah,
even along Bridgewater that way.
it'd be pretty high at Cancarran.
I think I went to Lanakuri more than Cancarran
Oh yeah,
when I was fishing.
yeah. No, and in Dalesford, of course, is up totally underwater.
Really?
What's this about? All the creeks have turned to rivers.
Wow.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a lot of the wattles start flowering around here.
Pardon?
A lot of the wattle. The wattles start flowering.
I see all the wattles. Yeah.
I see the Werrikee wattles.
Yeah.
I think they could even be endangered. They've just come out in the last week or so.
Did they define little ones?
Hey, I'll show you.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this? So what do you think of this so far?
What we're doing this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a bit of a break things up a bit. Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, no, look, I was so glad to see it happening. So
Pardon?
I was so glad to see it happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Have you heard of Marshall Rosenberg?
the name's familiar, but I might have read something a long
Yeah,
time
I mean,
ago.
I wonder if you did anything when you did your training.
No,
in
no.
disabilities.
No.
No.
But I have been thinking about lately why people.
Because I was saying.
I have been thinking lately about why people get angry or you know, attack people, and I've come to think that maybe it's because if you're feeling crap within yourself and you pass that crap on to somebody else, or you're feeling crappy within yourself, and then you pass that crap on to somebody else, you think, oh well, I'm not the only one feeling crap. You are too now, so.
Yeah.
So it's like a bit of passing a bit of a virus on, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway,
It is a bit like a virus, very much like a virus. Yeah. And Julie, my wife, because you know how she's been working at corrections.
Yes.
When she did her training, they did a day of this guy. They actually did a day of
Who's this?
non-VC.
Who's this? A mob you work for?
Pardon?
A mob you work for?
No, Julie, when she worked at the jail.
Oh, really?
She did a training day in this area.
No, it's interesting that it can be work for conflict for individuals, but then also for countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that great? So it works on the small stage
On the tiny,
and on the large stage as well.
It's like Buddhism says if you're kind to, if you're, I'll take this and put it in the water.
In the pots,
yeah.
So if you're kind,
if you're kind to one person, that can snowball into 5.5 billion people, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says.
yeah.
Do you know, if you practice that,
Yeah.
but you have to do it and a good example is if you're at the supermarket at the checkout and someone looks like they're having a tricky day, and you say, hi, how's your day? And they might say blah blah, and then you go blah blah, and they'll take some of that away with them.
But it's also what was said. One thing said there. You know, if you're talking to somebody and you can see that they've I remember right. I was working in a nursery. Right, this woman came in, and straight away I could see she was very agitated. You know, and she was quite. You could see, you know, and then a couple of conversations with her, and she, you know, and she was looking for these roses, you know, and you know, 3-foot standard roses, and we went over there, you know, and they were looking pretty. There was about 8 of them, but you know, a couple were a little bit broken and they didn't look too good. And she said, well, look, I want 10. I said, look, I don't have 10. She said, what? You should have 10. And you know, and she was starting to get really quite a little bit angry towards me. And I said, look, you know, and I stopped and I thought, and the thought came into my mind, ask her a question about how days go. And I said, how is your day going? She said, what? And she was taken back. She said, well, to be truthfully, you know, somebody's hacked into my bank account and taken out quite a substantial amount of money. And I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for the bank to get back to me to tell me whether they're going to actually not, you know, to pay it back in. And after I'd asked that question, her whole way of dealing with me changed.
And that is because you took an interest in her.
Yeah. And then I said to her, well, look, yeah, I don't have 10. Come over to my office. I'll write it into the book. I'll order you. You give me your phone number and, you know, name and phone number. And when it comes in, I'll ring you up and you can come in and get it. That's what happened. So it took something from her having a shitty day, for me just showing, I suppose, just a little bit of wanting to know, just wanting to know if there was a problem. But then that can be mental illness, or they could have had an argument with their partner.
All sorts of stuff.
Their father's just gone into care or something like that. And you don't know that, so it's hidden.
Because my son, he came home from work the other day and he said to everyone, I've been scammed. No. He said, no, what for you? And he goes, like $3,500 camera. So he set the camera and sent the money. Oh God. Where did you pull that? Oh, you do that?
No, anyway. It's not somewhere where people don't walk. Yeah. You'd be handy to fill them up too, if you like.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes. Okay.
Now we fill them, so we've emptied from right to left, now we fill them from left to right.
Okay.
So that the little green ones don't get in there, we just put a bit of incense under it. I abbreviate it, mate. I don't do it the proper way.
I've got them at home, but I don't do them the exact way. I did too. Used to.
Just break off the end of that. I don't want
and put it in there.
Yeah, not too much of it. Just.
Yeah. I'll let you do it.
So you want to fill it?
Now, do you want me to start on the far right?
Okay. So look, I just fill it like this.
Yeah.
On.
Oh, yeah.
And then I go from on, and then I fill it. You're supposed to fill it and then go back, but I never do. You space them so that they're about a match apart.
Oh, yeah.
And in line. And that's it.
Oh, yeah.
And like you're serving a very special guest.
And then when do you fill them up?
And then I fill them up just to where that top line is.
After you've done what you're doing.
So the thing is, you're not meant to be offering something that's empty.
Yes, yeah. Right.
That's how I was told. Is there a bit more in one of those ones?
With those ones in there, the empty, you just put them in there.
No, I've got to fill them up.
Oh, you fill them up for the next time, for the next person.
So there's a whole lot of different, as you know, a whole lot of different people.
Yeah.
This sheet we're going through,
Yeah.
do you have any spare copies?
Yeah, I can give.
Handing out to my sister-in-law.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
later on. I'll get it later.
Okay. When we finish. Okay.
Is it all right if I shift that bunch of flowers?
I'm sorry.
That all right if I shift that vase of flowers there? This one here.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to put it over here.
That's getting in the way, right? Yeah.
First went to Sri Lanka in 1975.
Oh, really?
When I was surfing.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to Hikkaduwa and Aragon Bay, and my first taste of Buddhism.
Yeah. Well, you know the drill then.
in the capital?
Yes, I mostly lived in Colombo. Yeah.
And
In Kandy.
family-
But as a nun, I live in Kandy.
Oh, you live
Yeah, I
in
lived last 5 years there, 6 years. So in Kandy. Yeah. Yeah.
If I do give away those little precious objects, what do you jump on yourselves?
While they're just getting ready, so I'm going to just take away the empty chairs.
Okay. Yeah, make it. Yeah. 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 Okay. It's okay. I had a tea. Thank you.
Lunch break today.
12 in an hour. 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Do you need me to do like a 5-minute warning?
Do a 5 minute. I wanted to ask you to do that. That's good. Yeah. Dreamer, is the camera still working? Do you know? So we have 4 minutes to 11. We are all in choice. So we are flexible with times as well, but I'm just letting you know, we have 1 hour before lunch break. We're going to lunch at 12. So I just like seeing that we are sort of moving in from observations to feelings. I would like to invite you to just take a moment to connect with yourself. We have been out there, you have come and just got the crux of NVC about the process. So how do you feel right now? Would anybody like to share in a couple of words? Yeah?
I feel really curious about what's happening, what's coming next.
Anyone else?
My appetite.
Yeah, great. Anybody else? How are you feeling?
I feel really satisfied that I'm going to get a lot out of this.
Sorry.
I'm going to get a lot out of doing this.
Okay. So how are you feeling?
Am I feeling? Good question.
You said satisfied.
Satisfied. Okay. Sorry, I missed that one. Thank you. Anyone else has anything to share? Yeah?
It's clearing up a lot of matters that we're aware of that are putting here in front of us.
Okay. So how are you feeling about that?
Oh, quite satisfied.
Okay. Cool. Great. All right. So everyone's happy to move on with a little bit more of the facts. So now we are coming to after observations, and I just want to make the point that Samantha rightfully brought up, and this is a process, this is a journey, lifetime of learning. So we are just starting to understand, because I have been at it for 6 years, I've heard from the time I heard about it, and I'm just learning it now. I'm absorbing it now a little bit more, So don't be daunted, it's a lot of information, and if people are interested, we can have more and more days like this in the coming, like this. Atisha Center is certainly interested in engaging with this process, with the community as well as outside, so we'll talk about that at the end of the day. What I'm trying to say is don't feel that, oh gosh, it's a lot of information and I'm not going to get this, in one day. Which is very normal. So now we are coming, once we make the observation, we get into our feelings. So we are doing the internal audit. I'm kind of connecting with that word. And we identify the feelings. And here, it's actually really interesting because sometimes we use, the tricky thing is we use the word feeling. I'm feeling like you don't like me. I am feeling like they are not into this. But is that a real feeling? No, we are just giving an opinion, masquerading kind of feelings thing. Yeah.
And we often don't have good background around describing what our feelings
No. Yeah. I know. Our feeling vocabulary, Joy is saying, is very limiting. Often we don't have a background in that extensive list of feelings that we have got here. Often we have 5 ways to describe. Oh, I feel really great. I feel very happy. I feel very angry. 5, 6 that we use. So, but when we look at the list, there's vast number of feelings, they're very nuanced, and it's very good to understand them. And for NVCs, in terms of NVC, they seem to bundle emotions and feelings together. So that's okay. We are still describing it as a feeling. So again, this feel like you should know better, that's obviously not a feeling, constant, I feel like I'm constantly being ignored or whatever it is.
Should is a judgment word.
Should is,
Could.
yeah, they are definitely. But we are talking about feelings here, so very much that you could use, just because we use the term I feel, we have to look at whether you are actually describing a feeling. So again, like we said, we have to get access. It's a new language, real feelings. We're not looking for opinions or criticisms or sort of moral judgments or opinions. It's actually what is present.
Can I just ask you something? Do people go to making opinions and criticism and moral judgment as a vehicle for not feeling, as a sort of way of diversion to not actually come into their feelings, and so do that at an unconscious level? Are those actions of like opinion and criticism, are they like perceived as a way of dealing with feelings?
I think.
This is all very at an unconscious level.
Did everyone hear that? Do people use these opinions, criticisms, and judgments as a way to protect themselves from feelings, real feelings?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Because vulnerability, to actually feel really our feelings, we have to be vulnerable. And who wants to be vulnerable? It's a rhetorical question. Sorry, did want to add something?
Yes, I've been brought up by not showing my feelings, like I've been able to hide it, hide behind the shield.
Yeah.
I still find it very hard to actually can't even imagine
Access.
feelings it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And, that's some of our experience, that we're not encouraged as children. In fact, one of the saddest things that I used to do to my children is also to deny their feelings. Because the feelings, you don't feel that, don't be blah, blah, blah. Because seeing somebody else's pain is like a criticism of my own lack of ability to care.
Don't use silk.
Sorry?
I remember them saying, don't use silk.
Oh, don't be a sook. Yeah, don't be a sook. Or you don't know what pain's like, or you don't know what pain, It's just really denying, don't be a sook. Boys don't cry, or whatever, all of this variety of things that people use, we use. So then again, feelings and needs go hand in hand. We really have to make the connection, when we become resilient and able to really connect with our varieties of, these beautiful feelings. Some painful, some pleasurable, how we label these things. And I really have to say here that if people have experienced a lot of trauma, I really I understand about trauma now, and my own unprocessed trauma and my behaviors and all of that came from that. So I have a lot of empathy. So we really need to look at with some sort of huge amount of love, self-love and empathy and openness and curiosity to anything that we may have done and what is coming up and things like that. Really it requires a lot of empathy towards ourselves.
Excuse me, did you say humbleness?
No, I didn't say humbleness. Yeah, I thought curiosity, empathy, when these feelings come up, and then things that we did, without actually understand the context of trauma and things like that. And it's very confronting, so it's very easy to fall into judgments about ourselves or somebody else. This kind of like that open curiosity rather than falling into depression or despair or judgment is important. So self-care, when we are going, if you have tricky pasts, and then, we are all wearing training wheels here. So later on we will start sort of tapping into some of our feelings. So I'm saying just work with things that are not too traumatic, too emotional. So we take situations that are things that we can process in this room today. Okay?
Can I just ask you another question?
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm thinking that if there's trauma, is it difficult to create that link between feelings and needs if there's been trauma? But that's a harder
Yeah.
path to navigate.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
To make that link.
Yeah. So as I said, training wheels, and you were the only one who knows your circumstances, what you have experienced. So this could be if you've never felt, like you've never given yourself to feel, permission to feel.
It's not so much the feeling, it's making the link.
Need. So what I'm saying is, whether it's a need or the feeling, and if you can't connect the dots, there's Samantha here for support, and I hope that this actually gives you, this is like a little bit of a gauge to understand where you are at. And if you can't connect the need, if it is like depending on the various degrees of difficulty, you then you have to take steps to take care of yourselves. If you can't immediately make the need, that's okay. That is also a learning thing. But if you're getting triggered, if you're needing extra empathy, extra help, whether it's professional help or whatever, then this, I hope, just by going down this path, that we can take these steps. Is that sort of kind of address what you're saying?
Not really.
No? Would you like to please explain that?
I'm just questioning in myself.
Yeah.
That I can feel things.
Yeah.
That's easy for me from my background.
Yeah.
It's around, I'm curious whether, in fact, if there's trauma, is it harder to make that connection between the feelings and the needs? It's not the feeling, it's not the
feelings themselves,
it's around the trauma, make it more difficult to create that connection to our needs. That's my question.
Yeah. Look, it may do, but if you're talking about a personal situation, if you are happy to share the feelings that come up, and there is an extensive list of needs, so we can collectively make the connection, because these are universal feelings and universal needs. You know what I mean?
I think you're asking about generally, outside of this workshop, when you go home, how will you
okay, right.
how you manage making that connection. I think that's something to explore just in a conversation, in an empathy session or in a conversation. And it will vary.
It will vary from person to person.
From person to person and also from moment to moment.
But generally though, if you have trauma, it will make it harder to make the connection. Because the feelings and needs connection.
It's the prefrontal cortex. That's going, right, this is the need now. I think. I'm not expert in neuroscience.
Trauma's been my favourite subject. And what I've read is that a lot of the time the emotions are so entangled that you can't sort of get to anyone with them at any one time. And then that can make it quite difficult to recognise.
It's not the expression of the feelings, it's making the link.
Making the connection, to actually.
To the needs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because you just don't have even the vocabulary or the inquiry. And also it will be very hard. You're so fractured and separated. So from person to person, these difficulties will vary. Yeah. I mean, with trauma, it has an impact on everything. So,
That's what I was going to actually add is I've been through several traumas, and the first thing that happens for me is a disconnect.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, my experience is making that connection is actually very difficult because you have to, when the trauma shuts me down so that I can deal with the situation.
Yeah, so the feelings, it creates a disconnection. Yep.
So then it is harder for me.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I've just got one thought that might be useful, and if if there's been trauma, trauma experience, you haven't got any way, of actually expressing needs because there is no practice around that.
Yes.
Ability around that.
Yeah.
So in terms of connections, we don't know, but trauma is about denial.
Yes.
So if you're not, you have any certain things. So if there's trauma, you actually there are no words to articulate the needs because you're not practiced in asking for a need. And in fact, non-traumatized people are not practiced in asking for what we need, and that's why we're here. But this requires practice to say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Because the trauma can then effectively get in
Yeah.
the way of asking for that.
Absolutely.
Because something awful is going to happen to you if you
Yeah.
ask for what you need. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thank you. That's
Thank you
really,
very much, Rebecca.
yeah. So what is it then that we need to create for anyone to ask for their needs? What do they need?
Safety.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Safety.
Primary thing as a human being, to even trauma or non-trauma, is to feel trust and safety that we can do that,
I
Yeah.
would dare to say maybe every person that's in prison has had some form of trauma.
Yeah. Anybody, just generally, that's very good. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a very crucial point because it's so common. Trauma is so common, varying degrees, and, so we need to, it's more understanding we have, it's good to actually remember that. Of course, once we know that, and we obviously hopefully connect with our needs. So there's a distinction between, again, the language can be quite tricky because we have to, revisit this whole thing, all the behaviors comes from unmet needs. So anger is fueled by an unmet needs. Does anybody disagree? Yeah. So that we have to be able to then link that. But again, we might, Anyway, we'll talk about that. Some words like I need, that is actually a request. Sorry, I'm making a mistake here. So the needs belong to physical, social, and spiritual. So this is exactly what I was going to say. We might say, I need you to do this for me. But it's really not a need, is it? It's actually a request. Or I need to know that you'll turn up, or whatever. I need you to say sorry. So it's not a universal need. Not everyone need to hear you're sorry. But we have other universal needs like food, shelter, warmth, company, support, trust, all of that, social belonging and whatnot. So with the same as the feelings, they can be buried in statements as well. So I just want to bring, His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says that all beings want to be happy. And so this kind of NVC gives us a bridge. What kind of needs make us happy then? What do we need along the road to freedom? Reminds me of South Africa a bit, Samantha. Road to freedom. So believe it or not, even Buddha acknowledged our universal needs. That we don't want to lose things, or we don't want to be, embarrassed or disgraced. We want praise, and we don't want pain. We want pleasure. They are accepted as universal needs. And then, of course, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that self-actualization bit is like trying to get enlightened. You know, when we have all our food, shelter, your basic needs have been met, when you have security and safety and our reasonable health, we have people who value us and we belong. We have relationship that nurtures us, is supportive. And then, of course, beyond that, you know, we do like a bit of recognition, you know, sense of accomplishment or sense of, I guess, contribute to the ability to contribute, that we contribute something in some way. And then, of course, the full potential, whatever that may represent to you, that's all individual. Then, of course, once we get to that point, then we learn how to make a request away from the 4Ds. So this NVC says it's good if we can make an action-based request. We'll look at some examples. And doable. You know, not sort of airy-fairy. Will you always be there for me? It's like, you know. Will you always love me? It's a little bit, yeah. Say, yeah, of course. But, yeah, hard to do. So you should, we're trying to get away from demands. Obviously, you know, you should. Does anybody use you should here? Oh, you have to. You have to use you should. You'd better. So, and it's again that sort of that part of NVC that we can't be attached to an answer. People will say, oh, sorry, no. Nope. If it is my granddaughter, she's always, nope. No. So we have to be ready to say, okay, how do we move from here? And how do I feel hearing that, you know? And just clearly saying what you want them to do, or the request could be from ourselves as well. And you know, I really like this because like someone actually said, even, you know, non-traumatized people are very bad at expressing their needs because it's like, you know, we are not used to it. It's like, yuck, I have a need. I want to be all super self-sufficient and independent and not relying on anybody and I am all right, I can do this, you know. Then suddenly I need empathy, I need this and I need that. It's like, you're a wuss, you know, you needy person. It's so foreign to be vulnerable and need something in our society. It's like all be, you know, capable and, yeah.
But it's also a fear base, isn't it? Because you have to deal with the results when you are vulnerable and you say, this is what I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you might be laughed at,
denied, absolutely.
You know, all those things
Yeah.
that can happen. So that fear
absolutely,
is so strong in us if we
And
ask.
especially in the past, if you try to have, if we, our needs, you know, unmet needs, and then you think, oh, it's better not to have needs at all because it's too painful to actually express a need and either have that denied or, you know, just be ridiculed for it or whatever the circumstance. So it's a lot, we do bring a lot of experience to this, whether we are comfortable. But by and large, it's safe to say 99% of the population is uncomfortable expressing a need. You know, it's vulnerability. And I think most of us don't want to be vulnerable to just being open to whatever unfolds next. The other person may say, you know, not possible, nope. So that's curiosity.
I'd like to say, I'm independent, I can do that.
Yeah,
I'm independent.
yeah. And isn't that what our society tries to make us, independent? Not like a burden on the family or system or why can't you do this, go get a job and do this and get a family and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of expectations that we're self-sufficient. So, but as a human beings, we are social and emotional beings. So I have to remember the time. So we make a proper request, clarifying and connecting and action.
We go back to that. I missed that.
So when we make the request, then based on our need, examples here, actually, thank you, we should spend a bit of time on this. Would you be willing to? Now, how would it be for you to do this now? Kind of thing. And if you didn't understand, can you please repeat what you heard me say? What are you getting from this? And connecting, would you be willing to share how you're feeling right now? I'm feeling totally out of my depth, after this conversation and this workshop. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Would you be willing to share how you feel? So we just show vulnerability. Like, I am totally on top of all of this, but what about you lot? Would you be happy to tell a thing or two about where you were at? It's a bit like, Okay. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time before the request. So that is really what the NVC process called the OFNR. Observations, feelings, needs, and request. This is kind of the crux of the main foundation, which is, what do you think about that? About the process so far, the main process? How do you feel about the process and hearing about it? What is coming up for people at this point? Yeah?
A little bit of confrontation.
Feeling a little...
Confronted, like...
So hang on.
That's not me.
Right.
That can't be me. I'm not, nothing like that.
No, but...
I'm this way.
Oh, okay.
I'm a good person. I'm right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Competition, and my background is competitive, so it's going to take the rest of my life to get rid of that.
So you're feeling like the current way that you talk and you do things is right. Is that what you're saying?
You got it.
Okay. There is no need to miss this airy-fairy NVC. That's not you. That is what is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that
Yeah.
can make fun of it.
Yeah.
Can make a joke of it.
Yeah.
Can let it go.
Yeah.
Can accept it. But there's still atoms worth
Yeah.
that won't let it go.
Yeah.
Because it's secure, it's safe.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You feel empowered, you
Yeah.
can control and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Wonderful.
Isn't what you're saying the way we've been taught at school and the society and everything, what we're living, that's what we're made to do all this, we're trained to do all this, be competitive and compete.
Yeah.
Well, the Olympic Games is a good example, I put up there. You've got to win to be the best.
Well,
Like the one that come last, everyone prays, but the ones in the middle,
There's no point in coming second.
No, that's right. Yeah. Our whole education system, our government system, everything.
Yeah, so it's a familiar, what you're saying is this is a normal way that we have habituated to speak and operate, and it's a little bit confronting, it's a little bit challenging, and you're feeling what you use the feeling words very beautifully there. Did anybody pick up on that? You're feeling secure, and you're feeling, before with the other system, you were feeling secure. Yeah. You're feeling clammy right now. Okay. So I'd like to do a little bit of we got about half an hour, fun bit of exercise. And just to get an idea about feelings. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if I'll get you to Samantha, just support people. But if you can pair up with whoever, just 2 people, turning to the nearest person.